quarter mile down, tell you what you may see. 3 men hanging from a dead tree.
And I give rap full permission to use this video
as
needed.
Hands warm their bones with the gloves.
I'm a human rights decolonizer with the Los Angeles Community Action Network on Skid Row. I'm also a point man on our community watch team. I've been doing community watch for about 13 years now, downtown LA. For about 13 years now, the majority of those community watches has been around business improvement security guards and Los Angeles Police Department and other security and police agencies.
Awesome. Yeah. So, how have bids used policy advocacy to exclude homeless people from public spaces?
Gone, hands worn to their bones with the gloves on.
So, the bids use police advocacy, the bids use policy advocacy to appear as though they help in the situation. So, for example, there could be a person that's posted up on the side of the store, right? And they'll roll over and on. Their main objective is to tell him to get the hell out of here, right? But then they'll roll up on him and they'll tell him, they'll say, hey, do you need some help, right? You need shelter information? Do you need medical information? Do you need housing information, right? And so a person is, sometimes they see what they gotta say or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But what they do is they make the contact. And they got this little clipboard that they keep count and records of everybody that they talk to, right? And so they say they may roll up on everybody in front of a business, their entire shift. They may make 40 contacts, right? And so when they go to turn those reports in, they generate a whole lot of those throughout all the guards that they have, right? And they calculate these numbers, right? And in the end, they create reports. And those reports always say at the end that, we have 475 people get housing. We have 700 people, we get medical assistance, right? And we assisted, in other situations. So they use it to show that they need it in this area, that they need it in here to produce and help public safety. And that's what their main objective is, to show that they need it.
What kind of policies have been advocated for in LA?
So one policy has been advocated for in LA is the removal of bids. So what do you mean by, I don't understand the question, what do you mean by
if you don't have an example, we can just skip it, but I mean, so it could be like bids for advocating for a sit-line or something like that. If there's any laws you know that a bid has been involved in advocating for,
So yeah, sure, bids are involved in advocating for a lot of public policy laws. Around policing. They always go into city council meetings. They always go into the police commission meetings. They go to the homeless committee meetings, and they always throw these numbers around. Like I said earlier about how many assists that they guards helped, and people that's homeless around and about. And so what they'll do is they'll go and they'll support lock them up, lock them down legislation. So laws, that that are anti-homeless, right? Like for example, the city of Los Angeles, right? They'll say, okay, we want to amend 5611, right? And so they'll have a hearing, right, deciding whether they should amend 5611. 5611 is a municipal code that says you can't store personal property on public sidewalk, right? And so the city was trying to get out of a lot of litigation that they was in beforehand, right? And so they would create these say policies on top of temporary restraining orders that they got, to try to wiggle their way out. right? And so these amendment policies like 5611 that they're trying to do, they have support groups, you know, like the Business Improvement District, which would come and give testimony and say, oh yeah, we confiscated 25 tons of trash and people need property here, they do that, and they'll come and support they argument, saying that it's too much property on the sidewalk, people shopping carts all over the place, and so it supports the city and what they're trying to do. So in that way, that's what they come and they try to give support to policy, because you gotta understand too, you know, the bids, you know, they're not a legal entity. You know what I'm saying? So they can't create their policy, you know what I'm saying? But they are lackeys for the police, you know? And so when the police pull up, you know, I've seen a lot of instances. I've been on at least over 1,000 incidents that involve Skid Row residents, right? And business improvement security guards, right? And so a lot of these incidents, you know, as soon as the cops will pull up, they'll just go right over to the bids. It'd be like a homeless person right here and a bid right here. The cop will go right up to the business improvement district guard, pull him to the side. They'll have a conversation for about 10 minutes, all right? And then the cop will walk over there to the guy and tell him what he did wrong. You know what I'm saying? And tell him you did this, blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? Don't ask him his side, you know what I'm saying? Or explain him his story and nothing like that, but just go on and tell him. So it's a collaboration. And so the business improvement guards, you know, are basically, you know, they're quasi government type police force for the police, right? And so the police have them direct the traffic, right? They have them do the little rookie jobs, you know what I'm saying, that a rookie would do. You know what I'm saying? We go over here and stand over here and do that. Guard this, put some tape over there, make sure don't nobody cross the tape. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. And so once the security guards get this kind of support from the police in their mind, you know what I'm saying? Oh, you know what I'm saying? Now, you know what I'm saying? We really police, you know what I'm saying? Or we, you know what I'm saying? We got power. All right, and so when they leave, when that incident is over, and they get on their bike and start rolling around, now their chest is stuck out 5 feet like Superman. You know what I'm saying? So now they're really oppressive. They're ready to roll up on people, throw you against the wall, search you. You know what I'm saying? Take your ID. You know what I'm saying? Write your name down, handcuff you, all this kind of stuff, right? Because they know that they have a dispatch, and they dispatch call the police, right? At any resistance, right? And then when the police get there, the police have been on so many incidents with these cats, you know what I'm saying? They already developed this working relationship. They're like, oh yeah, oh, what you got here today? Oh, what's going on with it? And they do that conversation again where they conversate among themselves, and then they go to the person to them. So this is the system that's created with the business improvement guards, and it becomes a problem for people in the community, because now you start to act like, you know, you oppressing the community. You become not community ambassadors, but community oppressors, right? Because the same force that's been oppressing the community, the police, you know what I'm saying? Now people feel like it's compounded, you know what I'm saying? Now we only gotta be, you know, look out for the police. Now we gotta be on the lookout for you, you know what I'm saying? Because you obviously, you know what I'm saying, we don't care about our rights because you violate them, right? And so another thing for me, I'm born and raised downtown. My parents have been downtown. I've been downtown all my life. I got my first job downtown. I got in my addiction downtown. I went to prison downtown. I did 18 years state prison. When I left downtown LA, there was no business improvement security guards, right? When I got out of prison, I came back to my community. I came back to downtown. I had a whole new different mind. I wasn't on drugs no more. I'm ready to organize my community. I'm ready to fight back. Right, and so I remember I got an apartment on Main Street, which is the divider line between Skid Row and the new downtown. So my housing unit was on the divider line, and I remember I used to come out my apartment and I would stand on the divider line and I would smoke a cigarette. My first introduction to the business improvement district is these guards rolling up on me. Right, and the guy walked up on me and he jumped off his bicycle. He had this little clipboard. He started writing, looking at me, writing stuff. Right? And so he finally walks up to me and he says, so, I said, well, I'm just smoking a cigarette, just chilling, what's up? He said, well, we want to, ask people if they can smoke and walk. You know what I'm saying? We don't want people hanging out in front of businesses. I said, well, I live right here. He was like, can you smoke and walk? I'm like, man, you better get the hell away from me. I said, I can't believe this little chump walked up to me. I was like, I'm fresh out of the penitentiary. I got some 19-inch arms. I was like, what? I said, man, I'm feeling like, but then, what I'm saying? I'm like, my first mind was like, man, this dude is crazy. You know what I'm saying? I already know the law. I was a jailhouse lawyer. You know what I'm saying? I already know my rights. I already know I have a right to public sidewalk. I can stand out here on the sidewalk and smoke cigarettes 24/7. The sidewalk don't never close. As long as I'm not blocking the sidewalk, people can walk by. You know what I'm saying? I'm not out here doing nothing illegal. I can stand out here all day long. Why I gotta keep it moving? And so they would just come back and forth every time I would come outside, and they would run up on me with this language, right? And so one day we got into a serious argument, and other residents that in my housing unit came out, and they was like, they would support me. They was like, yeah, y'all doing too much. We live here. We're gonna be able to come out and smoke cigarettes. So we ran them away as a community, right? And so after we ran away, I was like, man, I'm the general. I said, I gotta give me some sodas. I can't believe this. I gotta fight back on this, right? So I remember one of the residents, he told me, he said, go down to LA Can, they do that kind of stuff. I was like, who's LA Can? Oh, it's this group of crazy people that's always running back and forth from City Hall with the police behind them. I was like, sound like my kind of people. So I went down to LA Can the next day, and met Bilal Ali, right? He's a Black Panther from LA chapter, and we had some conversation, we was talking. And so I told him about the program. We marched to their office, we stuck a bullhorn in their window, we told them from this day on that we're gonna be watching you and we're gonna hold you accountable, and you are not gonna be able to violate the human and civil rights of Skid Row residents no more, it's over with. And from that day, we would go out, we would monitor them, and when we would pull up on them, we would pull out the camera, and they would be actively throwing people like the police got them. They against the wall like this, all that stuff is on the ground. And I was like, no, you can't do this. And we'll walk over there and just liberate our brother. We pick up your stuff, man. Let's go. And then we would go to their board meetings. We would show them the video footage. We would tell them that this is not your role in this community. You cannot do this. This is illegal. You continue to do this, we'll see you in court. Right? And after about a year, we had them in a headlock. To make a long story short, right? But we had to continue this practice. And then I found out, when I went to LA Can, that the first campaign of the Los Angeles Community Action Network was against CCEA, which is Central City East Association. It was a business improvement district in the toy district of Skid Row. And at the time, they was all white males. They had 9mm handguns, right? And people, as residents tell it, they was 10 times worse than the police. I can stand here all the way to New Year's telling you about all the stories that they've done, right? But I'm gonna save you the mercy of that. I'm gonna keep it moving. But we filed a suit on them. It was a policy suit that we won, and it calls for them to drop the 9mm. It calls for them to go through sensitivity training. They had to hire women because they didn't have that one women on there. They had to hire people, person of color, because they didn't have none of them working on there neither, right? And so that was a policy change, right? And that was in 1999. But here it is. Our community watch team was formed in 2005, right? And from 2005 to now, we've been patrolling, right? And we, that same security squad, we have currently filed a lawsuit against them for the same thing, illegally violating the human and civil rights of Skid Row residents. They was charged with illegally confiscating and destroying homeless people's property in collaboration with LAPD. And this was earlier this year, they settled out of court. So I ask you, here it is, we filed a lawsuit them in 1999. We're saying that they was illegally confiscating and destroying homeless people's property, and that they was violating the civil and human rights of community residents by moving people along, harassing people and stuff like that, right? So how it is, it's almost 20 years later, we filed the same lawsuit almost for the same thing. Even though they went through sensitivity training, even though they done hired women, they got people of color, how it is that the practice is still there. It's because the directors they policies and everything else is still the same, right? And the only thing that they move around is just, you know, the look of things on the block to make it seem like they changed, but they still the same wolf and sheep clothing that's ready to bite us in our community, right? And it's proof of it. The pie is right there. So, you know, that's some of the things I got to say about the business improvement.
That's good. I mean, you already answered about what kind of policing practices they use. Do you have any examples of how they've interacted with social services that you want?
Quarter mile down, tell you what you may see. 3 men hanging from a...
So just like I was saying, you know, they have a, so they try to use, they make it seem like they need it in the community, that they are a public safety entity, right? So they will roll up on people, and the first thing they'll do is they'll walk up on people. They got this little card that they pull out. They don't even know about hard. You know what I mean? And they'll ask you, you need shelter information, and then, you need housing information, should I say, because what they offer you is a shelter. They don't have house keys, right? They got handcuffs on their side, right? And so they'll offer you, you know what I'm saying, housing, right? And then when the person say, okay, yeah, I need housing, give me some housing. And then they, okay, well, first thing they do is call the midnight mission and see if they got an empty bed, or they write down the address for you and tell you, here, take this, go to the midnight mission, the midnight mission, tell them we sent you, right? And then they chalk it off in their book that they got a person housed, right? So when they go to City Hall, you know what I'm saying, to talk about how great they are, you know what I mean, they say, oh yeah, we have 5,000 people find house, right? And so it's that way in which they do social work, where they try to make it seem like they're not oppressed. They try to make it seem like that these billy clubs, you know what I'm saying, we don't use them, you know what I'm saying, these handcuffs, we never put it on nobody. This mace, we never spray nobody, and we never call the police on nobody, you know what I'm saying? We just public safety, your community ambassador, you know what I'm saying, that's trying to make the community safe for everybody. That's the way they try to paint it off, when all the time they are wolf in sheep clothing.
Good.
Okay, great.